Okay, buddy, it's nap time.
Nap time? Why on earth would it be?
Being a huge fan of stealth games for as long as I can remember, it should be of no surprise to anyone that I had my eyes on Dishonored in the months leading up to its release, and after watching several gameplay videos on the game in question, I was definitely keen. Having now played the game, was it worth all of my pre-release excitement? Let's find out. The story of Dishonored is set in the dark, plague-ridden fictional city of Dunwall and follows protagonist Corvo Attano, the personal protector of the Empress and her daughter Emily. Immediately as the game begins, the Empress is murdered, her daughter is kidnapped, and Corvo is falsely accused and imprisoned after being framed by corrupt members of government. On the eve of his execution, Corvo breaks out of prison with the aid of a group known as the Loyalists, and so begins his quest to exact revenge on those who crossed him, rescue the Empress's daughter, and ultimately bring down the corrupt government, one murder at a time. That's pretty much the story of Dishonored in a nutshell. It doesn't really offer anything fresh and new story-wise, as players would have likely already seen and experienced similar storylines in past games. And an additional complaint to note would be that because Corvo is a silent hero, rarely saying a word, players aren't given much of an opportunity to get to know him as a person, and therefore it was quite hard to feel sorry for him and empathise with his dire situation, as well as share his thirst for revenge, especially considering that the murder of the Empress happened so quickly. However, despite this, the story throughout Dishonored, although nothing new, is conveyed exceptionally well, and as a result is welcomingly simple to follow and easily does enough to hold one's interest. Being a stealth action title usually comes with an emphasis on sneaking around undetected, and thankfully the stealth elements present in Dishonored are very well implemented. Inclusions like the ability to lean around corners while remaining behind cover and being able to carry and conceal the bodies of enemies you've incapacitated really supports the stealth gameplay well. Close proximity stealth takedowns, both lethal and non-lethal, make players feel considerably more badass, and being able to glide effortlessly in and out of locations unnoticed is particularly satisfying. For the not so subtle, Dishonored also boasts a solid fighting system in which Corvo, if detected, can hold his own against attacking enemies. A dual wielding mechanic allows Corvo to simultaneously use ranged and melee weapons against his foes, and correctly timing blocks against incoming attacks knocks enemies off balance, allowing players to perform brutal counterattacks, resulting in first-person insta-kills which both look and feel very satisfying to pull off. Although containing somewhat of a learning curve to begin with, the platforming element throughout Dishonored feels fast, fluent, and above all, fun. Corvo is able to use rooftops, ledges, balconies, pipes, and other environmental objects to give him tactical advantages in both stealth and combat, as well as create several alternative pathways to mission objectives, meaning that players can be very open-minded when devising their plan of attack. And perfectly complementing all of the aforementioned gameplay elements is a very robust magic system, in which players are able to purchase and upgrade Corvo's magic powers in exchange for runes that can be found scattered all over the city. The magic powers available to Corvo are quite varied and a lot of fun to play around with, and they each have the potential to make Corvo significantly more effective in the field, whether he be sneaking by or slaughtering foes, or simply moving from rooftop to rooftop. As well as magic runes, bone charms can also be found throughout the city of Dunwall. Each offer subtle advantages that slightly alter one's gameplay experience, with perks ranging from faster climbing to increased mana regeneration, as well as a great deal in between. Bone charms are fun to play around with and can certainly assist you in some of the more challenging moments of the game, but players actively seeking a challenge may choose to just ignore them. Easily the most reoccurring theme throughout Dishonored is that of player choice. Each mission has practically been laid out as an open world, giving players a myriad of methods to approach their objectives. Players have the choice of incapacitating guards lethally or non-lethally, and when it comes to the game's actual targets, there are multiple ways of dealing with them too, including non-lethal options. It's all entirely up to the player, and the choices made directly impact on how the remainder of the game will play out, as well as change the ending slightly. After each mission, players are given a breakdown of their performance, detailing the quantity of enemies killed, alarms raised, times detected, bodies found, etc. I've always been a huge advocate of having this feature in stealth games, especially ones that give the player the opportunity to be creative in their approach. In Dishonored's case, it works. The mission summary feature together with a mission select menu, allowing players to replay any particular mission once completed, as well as the aforementioned freedom of choice in each mission, means that many like myself will be enticed to replay many, if not all missions, experimenting with different approaches and aiming for that perfect score. This all boils down to one simple phrase: replay value, and Dishonored has fucking lots of it. The variety of enemies encountered was quite good for the most part, ranging from standard patrolling guards to more advanced enemy types such as rival assassins and toolboys to increase the challenge as the game progressed. However, some enemies were just downright annoying. Trying to be stealthy while being chased and eaten alive by hordes of rats is easier said than done. Don't even get me started on those acid-spitting plants, which in my opinion were completely pointless, had no purpose other than to piss you off, and can go fuck themselves. And need I mention the Bottle Street gang? I mean, come on! I couldn't have possibly been the only person to have gone to deal with the thugs harassing Granny Rags in no later than the second mission, only to be burnt to a crisp and killed seconds after opening the fucking door. Although I did mention that the stealth gameplay was quite good throughout Dishonored, it was occasionally held back by a few moments in which enemies couldn't see me when they really should have, or were able to spot me instantly when by the game's logic I should have been invisible. Bullshit! Additionally, there wasn't a lot of variation in the stealth takedowns. Although this is only a minor issue, watching the same takedowns take place on screen over and over again quickly took away their impact. Sometimes when platforming, for whatever reason, the blink indicator wouldn't cooperate, failing to take me to where it should have really been able to, making things like quick escapes and avoiding detection way more difficult and frustrating than they should have been. The first-person combat could at times feel a little clumsy when being attacked by several enemies simultaneously, and on top of all that, the overall length of the game is rather short, easily beatable in 1 or 2 days, but one could argue that the brief campaign is more than made up for in replay value. Although far from perfect, the presentation throughout Dishonored is well above average. It is clear that a lot of effort was put into the creation of Dunwall, with some fantastic scenery, as well as dark and grimy visuals that effectively convey the bleak and desperate atmosphere of the plague-ridden city. The game also features decent animation, which is most noticeable in combat, enough blood and gore to make kills more satisfying, and some great voice acting by many of the key characters. However, the Xbox 360 version at least is plagued with regular texture pop-in, very occasional frame rate hiccups in the more full-on situations, and very frequent load times, which pull you out of the experience not only when you start a mission, but whenever you die, move to a new area, or reload a save file. Not to mention that I did encounter a few glitches here and there throughout my experience, but these were often far more hilarious than they were game-breaking. Despite its flaws, Dishonored is still a very enjoyable stealth action title, with a decent, easy to follow story, some very robust gameplay elements, and a presentation that does the game justice. If you're a stealth fan that gets into games rich with replay value like Hitman or Deus Ex, I'd strongly recommend picking this game up. If, however, you're not likely to continue playing after a single playthrough, with the briefness of the story considered, I'd be more inclined to suggest a rental.
And he's dead now, like the others who were living here.
Whoops.